Yo, what's going on, you guys? This is All Day 1, and I'm going to be giving you guys another New World build video. So this build video I'm going to be giving you guys is going to be a healer build video. So I am on my fresh start character, just so I can show you guys um, pretty much what I have on, again, my fresh start character. Um, it's not that it's more optimized than my legacy character. I just didn't feel like going through my storage and putting together the healer stuff when I already have it done on my fresh start. So there are two different types of healers when it comes to PvE. You have the healers who do play aggressively, and you do have healers that play more passively. So the passive healers are the ones to generally main hand the life staff and occasionally throw out a few abilities with their void gauntlet or their flail, but they're mainly just using their life staff. And the aggressive healers are the ones to drop all their heals, so which is typically going to be AoE heals. They'll drop their heals and then switch to their void gauntlet, drop Oblivion to buff their teams, and use Scream to CC the mobs or Essence Rupture if they're on the boss, and then use Void Blade to help DPS. So I'm going to be explaining both builds here. So let's go ahead and take a look at the build. So first and foremost, this is going to be, I'm going to explain the aggressive healer setup first. So I don't have food active, but normally when I do, I would try to reach to 350 int for the ability damage, and then put the rest into focus, and then obviously like get 25 into dex and 25 into strength. It's just so that way I can do 5% more damage with my light attacks with the void blade, and then get the 5% crit chance as well, because crit chance is always good to have, and then just the rest into con. Now this is again for the aggressive healers. Now if you want to play as an aggressive healer but you feel like 25 cons too much or too little, then you can drop your focus down to 200, because realistically at the minimum you only need 200 focus, because you're gonna still heal your allies for about 1,000 per second on with your sacreds anyways. So that's why 200 focus is the ideal amount, nothing less, and you don't really need anything more. It's just having more means you get more damage with your void gauntlet and extra little bit of healing. And then you can also drop your int down to 300, so that way you would have basically like around 50 to 80 more points left over, and then you can just put it into con if you want to try to reach 100 con, in case, you know, again, if you want to play aggressive but you're just unsure on how survivable you are, I guess. Next, for your weapon mastery, this is how the weapon, your life staff tree is going to end up looking like. And the reason why, because you're never main handing the life staff, so this is okay to have, but you just won't have enough points for it. You will never be main handing the life staff, so you're never gonna have intensify up. This, you only have this just because well, there's a secret tech. You can pretty much charge your heart rune in the beginning of a dungeon before you even start the mutation. You can charge your heart rune just by shooting through your allies. It's been a speedrun thing for a while, but you can. It's also nice just in case your allies are trapped or they're rooted or something. You can just swap to your life staff, unroot them. And then Orb of Sacred Ground, or Orb of Protection, is very, very good because it applies healing and fortify as well. You got to make sure you have Aegis, so that way it actually applies the AoE. And then you want to have Beacon with the haste. Having haste means you guys can run faster, and even though it's only for 3 seconds, it's still better than nothing. And then you have the Protector's Touch, just in case you do need to use your life staff for a little bit, like you have to main hand it for a little bit. This is going to be ideal to have. And then obviously you want to make sure you have Sacred Ground completely maxed out. Now when it comes to your Void Gauntlet, this is how the Void Gauntlet is going to be set up. You can take Overflowing Essence off if you don't really want the AoE heal from it, and put it into Fortifying Echoes if you want more Fortifying. But aside from that, that's pretty much how the entire tree is going to go. The reason why you have 4 abilities is because these are the 3 main abilities you'll be using, but when you get to a boss fight, you'll switch Scream out for Essence Rupture. But again, it also depends on the bosses, because some bosses will, like if you have Putrefying Scream, the perk on your Void Gauntlet or your gear, if you use Putrefying Scream, it's going to apply disease, and bosses that have a healing, like they apply healing to themselves or something after they die, and then they resurrect, they get a lot less health when you apply disease to them. So having Putrefying Scream would be good. That's why having Petrifying Scream would be good for the boss fights. But that's really it. Now, if you're not doing that, then yeah, you would just switch to Essence Rupture for boss fights, because this allows not just for yourself, but allows for your team to heal and get their stamina back. And then for Flail, it's kind of, there's like a few different ways you can do this. I like going like this because with Arcane Smite, it applies the Impairment, which is Weaken, and it also does a little bit of damage over time, as well as healing. Like it applies Lifesteal for you and your allies for 10% of it for 3 seconds, which is good. And then Arcane Vortex is also very, very nice, or it's pretty important to have Arcane Vortex, and so is Warding Bludgeon. Now, if you don't want Smite, you can actually go with Arcane Eruption, which allows you to increase the duration of right here, with Debilitating Extension. It allows you to increase the duration, or extend the duration of Rend, Weaken, Exhaust, and Disease by 30%. And it will keep continuing its extension every time you hit the enemy with this. You wouldn't go with Supportive Blessing though, because it would just consume the impairments. You would just leave it the way it is. So you would just go, or I guess you could go with it if you wanted, but I just don't think the healing itself is really worth it to take the extra weaken off. Yeah, I think it's still not worth going for that. So you would just go for those 3 and then put the one last point into, or wherever. As you can see, I'm only at 18 out of 20 on my Flail anyways on my fresh start. And then for Warding Bludgeon, it's very important because it allows you to apply Fortify on you and your allies within your radius, within 3 meters. And then with Arcane Vortex, it's good because it also applies Empower, and it can heal you and your allies, as well as cleansing, roots, stuns, and slows. And it can also root and immobilize enemies. And it also applies haste. So that is all though for the aggressive healer setup. It is still partial, like would be in a sense support. Oh, that's the abilities. So now we're gonna go over the gear. As you can see, I have a blue chest piece, but it's okay because I have a very important perk on it, which is Enchanted Ward. Enchanted Ward is needed because you need to be able to have that damage reduction against the enemies, and Enchanted Ward protects you from lights and heavies. The enemies do both light and heavy attacks. Even with their abilities, those count as lights and heavies. The artifact piece that I'm using is Attuned Leather Pants, but there are other gear that you could end up using. I just prefer Attuned Leather Pants in general for healing, but you can also use the Featherweight as if you want more damage resistance. If you want more armor, with Featherweight you can potentially reach, I think it's about like 1200 physical resistance and elemental, so you can do that with the Featherweight. And then there's also the Winged Leather Boots that will allow you to get more damage when you have haste as well. But that, I would honestly suggest just mainly using the Attuned Leather Pants just for the extra attributes in general. The Nature's Wrath used to be one of the best artifacts for the healer, but I just don't like it anymore, and that's because Nature's Wrath reduces the effectiveness of Empower by 50%, which means you have to get double the Empower in order to reach Empower cap, which is already a lot. Now for your gear, you want to make sure you have at least, or not at least, you want to make sure you have all 4 refreshing pieces. Another good piece, I guess, for another good artifact would be Nimble Coat, so that way you can also have the extra refreshing. But yeah, you want to make sure you have refreshing, at least 4 out of 4 refreshing, just so you would be able to drop your sacred and then do DPS with the Void Gauntlet, and by the time your sacred runs out, your sacred will come back and you can just drop it again. And then for the rest of the perks, having something like, well, I don't have it here, I think I put it in my storage. Yeah, having something like the Nullifying Oblivion, which I have on this Void Gauntlet somewhere, right here. I have it on my Void Gauntlet, but it's better if you just have it on gear for Nullifying Oblivion, and then having the Voracious Blade as well on your gear is going to be very good, and having Mending Protection for your life staff is also very, very good. And then that is pretty much all you need. You don't need any, or there's also Keen Beacon. Keen Beacon allows you and your group to get more crit chance. Unfortunately, I don't have any of those perks on my Fresh Start character, but those are very good. It's not necessary for the build though. It's not that you need those for the build to make it really insane. It's just those are the min-maxed perks that you would end up wanting after you've gotten your 4 refreshing, your enchanted word, and whatnot. Now for your amulets, you can get, well, realistically you want to get every single different types of protection amulet. So Heart of Cold and the where is it, the fire one right here, the Empty Hearth. You can get both of these practically for free just for doing daily dungeons. If you do forge 3 times, so you do your daily forge once, or one day and then another day and another day, and dismantle all those items and some of the heart runes and whatnot, you'll have enough to just be able to buy your Empty Hearth, because the dailies will give you 1,000 materia every time you complete your daily. And same thing with Glacial Tarn, you will get enough to buy your Heart of Cold. Same process for your Empty Hearth. And then for your rings, I mean, the best in slot ring is going to be Keen Awareness, Hardy, and Sacred. But only in Genesis, in the mutation, you get these exact perks. Pretty much guaranteed with Hardy and Keen Awareness. I've gotten so many Gardens rings that came with Sacred as its 3rd perk. But it doesn't really, I guess it's not too difficult. Like the other ring that you can end up getting is the Azoth Crystal ring, which comes with Hardy and Hardy and Lifesteal, but it doesn't come with Keen Awareness, so you would have to pick between Keen Awareness or Sacred. But that's why Garden's ring is going to be your best option, because of the fact that it has Hardy, Keen Awareness, and Sacred. And then your earring, in the sense, it doesn't really matter what you use for your earring. I would just say the best earrings to have is the ones that have Refreshing Toast, Empowering Toast, or the Purifying Toast, and Nimble or Regenerating. Nimble for the stamina recovery and Regenerating for the health recovery. Now for your life staff, you can get the Ritual of the Hereafter, and there's the Fire of Life. Ritual of the Hereafter you get from Lazarus, and it's the same process as the amulets. You would just go and do your daily dungeons in Lazarus, and then once you get enough materia, just buy your life staff, because it comes with both Fortifying Sacred Ground and Refreshing Move. Same thing in Forge for the Fire or Life of Fire or Fire of Life. It comes with Fortifying Sacred Ground and Blessed, so they're just both slightly different. My 3rd perk was Desperate Prayer. When you are below 50% mana, your heals are 20% more effective, so this is still a pretty good perk to have. I prefer Blessed just because of the extra healing, but the Fire of Life doesn't come with Refreshing Move, and Refreshing Move is a harder perk to come by in terms of getting it on a drop. And then, yeah, so that's pretty much it for the aggressive healer setup. Now we're going to go into the I guess, more passive healer setup. Alright, so now for the passive healer, I guess, which you can call it. It's not that big of a difference. I mean, the stats are very, very, very different. But some of the perks are going, well, I guess the flail would be the only thing that's similar. But anyways, let's just look. So, as you can see, all my points pretty much just went into focus because I'm just basically a heal bot. I'm putting out the most amount of healing as much as possible because there's just no reason for me to go into any other stat if I'm literally just main handing the life staff. And then I just put the rest of my points into constitution, and then I'll use constitution food as well. This is not the ideal setup for what people would want from a healer, but I guarantee you when you go into a dungeon and your tanks are going to be pretty happy to see that they have someone that can just like one tick their health bar with this much healing, because it's an insane amount of focus. Now, is 500 too excessive? Probably. I would probably honestly stop at around 400 focus at the minimum or at the most, but you know, because there's pretty heavy diminishing returns after 400. So 500 is a little too much, but it's just pretty much getting every little bit of healing ticks as much as possible from the from focus. And then, but if you do plan on just stopping at 400, even at 300 or 350, that's more than enough focus, because then you can start putting points somewhere else. Like for example, what I could do, I can just leave it at 350, and then I can put points into intelligence. So if I crit, I think it's right here, if I crit with the int, I get mana back. I get 10% of my mana back when I crit. And then I would just put 5 points into dexterity, and then I could just put the rest of my points into constitution. So this is the other ideal setup that you would end up going with, so you have basically no mana issues. Obviously you would still run a Void Gauntlet offhand, so that way you can just, you know, you can use your right mouse button to give yourself mana just in case if you in an emergency. But for the most part, you'll have enough, hopefully enough crit chance to get some mana back. But yeah, if you really wanted to, you could just push all the way to 500 focus just to have the most amount of healing as much as possible. Now for your weapon mastery, this is what the life staff is going to end up looking like. You're going to have Sacred Ground and Beacon, but you're not going to have the Speed of Light anymore. Instead, you're going to have Divine Embrace. Divine Embrace is the strongest single target healing skill in the game. It does put you in animation, but you can still move around and you can roll out of the animation. Another good option is Splash of Light, because it heals everyone within your group. So if you really are not that great at target healing, you can just opt out of Divine Embrace and use Splash of Light. But the reason why Divine Embrace is just so powerful is because of the specific perk you get from your life staff. And then for your Void Gauntlet, this is what the new tree will end up looking like for your Void Gauntlet. So essentially you're just taking away a Void Blade and putting it into Orb of Decay. And you will no longer use Void Caller because you just won't have enough points for it. You'll just get Glimpse of the Void. But what you could do, I guess, is technically just get rid of Leeching Bolts and get rid of Overflowing Essence, or just get rid of one of these two passives, putting it somewhere, or you would need 3 points actually. So yeah, no, I think this you would be stuck with this. All right, but yeah. So what you would do is same thing. You would drop the Oblivion for your group, and then use Orb of Decay. Use Orb of Decay on the mobs. Actually, put that back. You use Orb of Decay on the mobs, and then you can either pop Orb of Decay on the mobs, or you can let it come back so it can heal you and your allies. And then you would use Scream on the mobs as well to help keep them rooted. And then, or you can use Essence Rupture instead of Scream, so you can still get Lifesteal from the mobs you're hitting, and you would still use this on the bosses. And then same exact tree for flail, nothing has changed. For your gear, so my gear, I just swapped it out for more focus, but again, it's essentially going to be the same thing. Don't mind the enfeebling maelstrom, you do not want that. It was just, this chest piece was only like 500 gold on the trade post, so I ended up buying it. But yeah, you basically still just want to have enchanted ward and refreshing on your gear, or in your setup. And then I have the wrong ring. Well, there's this ring, but the reason why I was using this ring is because I didn't want to switch out of my gems, so because gems are very expensive. And again, you have protection amulets, and then so this was my PvP setup as well. So normally I don't have aquamarines in here. And then you have the life well channeler. So I ended up getting this as a drop-in Genesis. Unfortunately, it came with enchanted, but it's not too bad because you do light attack and heavy attack anyways, and it's kind of nice actually in PvP to have that extra bit of damage from your lights and heavy attacks versus having refreshing move. So essentially this is still a very good life staff for life staff main hand users to have, so you can still do some damage with your life staff in general. And then you would also use Life Taker offhand because you're going to be mainly ranging anyways. So your ranged attacks inflict Disintegrate, which is something you need to do, so that way, because Disintegrate, it applies rend to the enemies. So essentially you need to have a way to apply that extra rend. So this is why you want to have Life Taker as an offhand. Now if you use the Flail, you want to have Power Stone as the offhand, because when your health is above 90%, all of your attacks cause 20% weaken for 5 seconds. Very good in terms of a flail offhand. Now there is another life staff you can get with these exact perks aside from enchanted one, but it comes all the way from the Cutlass Keys settlement. So I'm just going to go ahead and fast travel there real quick. But you need to have 750 doubloons in order to buy this life staff. I haven't done it yet. I need to, but I just never got around to it. But it is a very good life staff to get because it has these same exact perks that you would want on your main hand life staffs anyways with Divine Embrace. So where is it? I think it's straight this way. It's over here. So you're gonna go ahead and go down to Living Mind. So it requires 750 Mystic Doubloons, 710 Gear Score, but it comes with Blessed and Refreshing Divine Embrace. Again, this is only going to be really good for both PvP and going to be good for the main hand life staff users that do use Refreshing Divine Embrace. Now, if you're playing the aggressive healer setup, this life staff or that life staff won't be good because you're not making use of Refreshing Divine Embrace pretty much ever. You're using Fortifying Sacred Ground. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. Hopefully this helped you guys out. If it did, go ahead and leave a like, comment, subscribe. If you have any questions or concerns, let me know down in the comment section as well. I unfortunately do not have gameplay of my healing, but if you want, I have speedrun videos of me doing healing when it comes to doing just speedruns in general as a healer. Like, if you need the proof of my healing, just go ahead and look at the speedrun videos of prior to this update or Aeternum update. It's all still the same, the builds are still the same as it was before, but just slightly different in terms of gear. The gameplay is still the same, everything is still the same. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Hopefully this helped you guys out. If it did, go ahead and leave a like, comment, subscribe. If you have any questions, concerns, let me know down in the comment section as well, and I will try my best to answer them to the best of the ability. Have a good day, good night, and peace.